Boom, 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 boom,
I
boom,
do
boom.
have I do have a hard stop at 6:30 today.
Okay, cool. So you got half hour.
Yep. I've
All
got
right, cool.
I'm going to turn my computer slightly because I've got my microphone set up on it. But if you look, got all this gear all around me. I'm in the midst of a mad packing frenzy as I prepare for the scariest trip I've ever been on ever.
Oh, dude, that's like in a day. When are you leaving?
Yeah, I leave Wednesday, bro. Never,
Oh man.
never have I had a vacation that I've been so scared for. Never one that I've spent so much money on gear. Like, dude, I got so much crap that I got to bring. It's good, man.
Hmm. Dude, when do you leave? You leave tomorrow or the 28th?
I leave Wednesday morning, bright and early.
Wednesday. Oh man.
So
How you
I'm
feeling?
super ready, man. Real excited about what I'm going to learn to kind of give it like a conceptual feeling of what might be in your mind. Like I feel like I'm going to go to LS to run like a super ultra marathon Spartan race. That's how I feel like it's an LS version of a Spartan race.
Yeah,
Just
yeah, yeah. No, that's perfect.
for me, that's how it's built in my mind, given the
Yeah.
fact that I'm going with a group of people and it's going to be a real mental challenge. I'm going to be the only one there, in here. And
Hmm.
but I imagine it's going to be the same type of weightlifting being done on that mountain mentally.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like 2 days straight, like no sleep, right?
We do sleep. We sleep one full night and then we sleep a couple hours the second day.
Okay. Right on, man. You got this. Pixar didn't happen.
It's going to be
That's all I'm
fun.
saying. Pixar didn't happen. So for all y'all watching, Dustin leaves day after tomorrow to fly to what's the country that it's
Tanzania.
in Tanzania to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. And normally it takes what, 9 to 12 days or something like
No,
that?
five to 9 days.
5 to 9 days to climb this mountain. And the Dustin's intention with his little Huya Wim Hof warrior group that are going, the intention is to climb the mountain shirtless in less than 48 hours.
Yep.
So yeah, cool, man. I'm stoked for you. I'm like so excited for you to come back and, well, unless you don't, which is kind of like the chapter at the end of the book that talks about like not diving too deep. Like you won't know until you get back or
Yep.
you don't come back. So
Yep.
it's interesting. It's interesting chasing that thing.
Chasing that
Yeah.
thing, man. Exactly.
Chasing that
I
thing.
definitely don't think this one's going to be too far of a chase for me, but I definitely think that it's going to be further than I've ever gone, in every physical sense, and then mentally. I think that the part of me that's going to have to keep going and to keep breathing and to also continue to choose into freezing, those conversations are going to be really tough. Uh,
Mhm.
and it's gonna be like a battle of attrition for me, where I just have to continue to um, believe and most importantly believe, and then also stay committed to what it is I'm choosing into. So it's gonna
Yeah.
be cool, man. I think that when I come home, other things will be different. Other decisions.
Everything's gonna be different.
Hmm.
I don't see how everything's not gonna be able to different. You've been growing a little beard too.
This is just because
Ready. No, I know I'm just messing with you. It's oh, that's gonna be intense. How many people?
14.
14.
Yeah,
Right on.
it's gonna be cool,
Is it
man.
is it all men?
All men, one woman.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
Fuck yeah.
Right on. Man,
How about
yeah, I'm super stoked. So yeah, we'll probably miss you here. I know
Monday?
Amber just hopped on, said she should be on here tonight. Amber, you and me next week. We'll hop on here next week. Dustin will count you out for the next week. And we'll see you on the week after. So what else do you want to get into today? I know you're short for time, so let's get into
No,
something.
man. I just
Talk
wanted to
about.
kind of talk about your week last week, or it might have been the beginning of this
Yeah.
one. No,
No,
end of
I'd
last
say
week.
it
End of last
the
week.
end of this really came up for me huge.
Friday.
Was it this recent Friday or was it the Friday after?
It was this Friday that just happened.
Yeah, it
It
was
just
this
happened. We
Friday.
were like, "What the fuck, man?"
but I feel like it was a couple days building up. And so what this is for me, and so metaphorically speaking, like I have this thing, like it is so important to me that the relationships in my life continue to evolve. And one of the things that I started doing, love you too, Nick. So it was like December, January 2017, 2018. I had this huge realization in my life that I felt like I had a bunch of people in my life that were tourists. And they were very interested in what I did. And I was like, been doing the deep dive into personal development. Like that's my business. That's what my wife and I talk about. We're constantly looking for ways to evolve. Like this is kind of how this Monday night chat for us became. It's like, how can we begin, or how can we continue to push against the thin, soft membrane of our realities, to attempt to poke through it, to find the next membrane, and so on and so forth. And so I realized that there were like 4 people in my life that would call like every 4 to 6 weeks, like, hey man, really stoked to talk to you. I know it's been like 4 or 6 weeks since we talked, and you always give me such great advice. So I was wondering if you want to have the exact same conversation and give me the exact same advice you gave me a month and a half ago. And I started to realize how much energy I was giving to these things. And so about almost a year and a half ago, I just started cutting people off. Or I would say, I'll tell you what, you can evolve this conversation, or you can stop calling me. So evolve, stop, or give me your credit card number. Like those are three simple, unobjective, like this is how we can continue to be in a relationship. You know, keep calling me if you have something new to talk about, or you have an evolution in your journey. Because I don't want to talk about the same stagnant stuff forever. Because I don't
watching
want
the merry-go-round, man.
Yeah,
it kills me.
I don't want to watch it. Yeah. And so for me, like this started coming up in my life again, like a week ago. And it's been a constant thing that I check in with. And I was like projecting on like my primary relationships really bad. You were included in that. My best friend Jason was included in that. Stephanie Kago Kong, my wife, and one other person who's eluding me right now. And anyways, like, so I'm like projecting on the people whom I spend the most time with. Right. And I'm thinking to myself, as like, what's wrong with these relationships? How come they're not evolving? Da, 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 da. And then turned out it had nothing to do with any of you guys, which of course it never does. And it was just something that I'd been holding on to, and something that I've been wanting to cut ties with for a really long time that I just hadn't done. And so then it was just another tertiary relationship. It was something to do inside of my business. And I was just like, this just doesn't feel right anymore. I'm really appreciative of what it's brought me. I'm really thankful for all the stuff, but it's just got to go. And so I sent the message and said, hey, after this and after this, X, Y, and Z, like we're going to part ways, like no big deal. And it was like, whoosh, like they were like, high five, no worries. We're in the same boat. And I was like, oh, and it was just like that. This entire week of funk and fog for me was just lifted. And it just felt super clear. Amber was the 5th person who's in that top 5, whom I spend the most time with. I spend an hour with you every week. I spend 2 hours with Amber every week. Spend an hour with Stephanie every week. And then Jason's my best friend, and we text almost every day. And then Mick Harris, my wife, I see her every day. And so it was like me, like this external look, like it always is. We fall trapped to. And so, you know, and then it was just one simple thing. And then, but in the process, my buddy Jason and I, who's my best friend, we took like a week off. We actually talked today. So we took 5 days off. We didn't talk. We didn't text for 5 days. Mm-hmm. And so we were going to meet on Friday, this next Friday. And so, no, this started Wednesday for me, because me and Jason took our break like that Wednesday. And so Friday, then I talked to you. And then Saturday, Sunday, Jason sent me a message. He's like, hey, something came up Friday. I'm not able to talk. And I was like, hey, let's just get on now. And he's like, okay, cool. So we had this conversation. And then this amazing thing happened. Yesterday, we both got our screen time thing back from iPhones. Thank you very much for letting me know. The fact that the only thing that the two of us had changed is we stopped texting each other. 22% reduction in screen time. 22%. Whoa. 22%. I did the math. That's 7 hours a week.
Wow. How interesting.
7 hours a week. So it wasn't even about, so I think even more so, it was the fact that's like, hey, you're literally wasting 7 hours a week not having intentional conversations. You and I get on here once a week. We may, like this last week, we talked on Friday via text for
That's
like,
pretty
which is
random,
rare.
right? Pretty rare.
Super random. Like it's pretty rare. Like me and you, we have an hour long at most, and we're pretty strict about it. It's like, hey, we're at an hour, we got to go. Most times for 45 minutes, and then we don't hit each other up till the next week, and we do it that way, so it's intentional. And
That's
so I'm like looking at this math, 364 hours a year that I'm either sending a text, and me and him said this today. I was like, dude, I said, sometimes I feel like I'm just sending you a text message out of obligation. Oh, I haven't talked to Jason in 7 minutes. I better shoot him a text message. And so I was thinking, it's like, that's 7 hours a week that I could be spending with my family. I could be spending on my business. But the biggest thing is I'm just not looking at that distraction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
you're
so,
allowing something else to happen in here.
yeah. And
7 hours of who knows what.
yeah. And literally, yeah. And literally, I figured that math out right before this call. And it just hit me up. I was like, whoa. And Jason and I talked several hours before this. So 3 or 4 hours ago, we talked. He was down 20%. We were both down 22%. And so then I'm on another call, and the client's like talking about not having space. And I was like, oh, hear this interesting story. And then I'm telling him the story, and then I'm doing the math, and I'm like, oh, Jesus. And so it's so fascinating. So as I like Tarantino this backwards to the source of it, is that on Wednesday, I'm feeling like there's something wrong with this relationship with my best friend. And really, it was just the universe to say, hey, you could be saving 7 hours a week by having an intentional conversation with him every week, instead of just being like, hey, man, did you watch that Caps game last night? Cool.
No.
Later. Yeah.
Bye.
So then, yeah, bye. And so then we took a 5-day break. We got on the freaking phone for half hour today. We had a very meaningful conversation. We were like both in the same boat. We're evolving our thing. We got off, and it was just like,
No more texting, man.
None. Yeah, we're done. We're done.
Cool. That's an official thing of your relationship. That's cool.
Yeah, like I think it's just gonna be like no more texting. Like it's either calling, if it's important enough, like, and so yeah, don't text me anymore. If it's important enough to send me a message,
write me
call
a
me.
fucking email.
Yeah, or write me an email. Yeah.
And I can respond in a very intelligent way.
Because I spend so much time messaging people in the group, or with prospective clients, or in my business, and just talking to social media all over the place. 7 hours just for meaningless, superfluous, because I feel like I'm obligated to stay connected to this person every day because we have titles.
And I'm sure maybe even like 20% of that whole is you just staring at the phone going, duh, 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 what do I say to this person? You know what I mean? Like even like not even really having something to contribute, but figuring out something to contribute just because you have, like you said, an obligation.
Or I send them a text message, and then I look at Twitter, because that's what phones do.
Oh, I see.
You send a text message, you close the app, and oh, let's just check Twitter real quick. And we were talking about how he'll like get up in the morning, and then he'll go to the bathroom, and he'll just take his phone with him, and he looks at Instagram, and then he looks at moments on Twitter, and then he looks at Instagram. Nothing's changed. He looks at moments on Twitter, and it's just like this massive waste of time. And so it's so interesting. So people, this is what I really hope you're taking home from this, because this lesson is landing on me in the moment. Is that I thought it was this one thing, but really I gave myself the opportunity to take a break from something or do something different. And I've like this discovery, like I don't even know what to do with yet. And now it's like, oh shit, I got to delete all my bullshit apps off my phone. And I got to make a deal like with my top 5 people, like unless it has something to do, unless it has something directly to do with the Monday night talk, Dustin, don't talk to me. You know, the same thing with my, like now it's like, okay, cool. Like, yeah. And it's, and like, do you notice like my energy right now? I feel so inspired to go figure more out. Whereas last week I was like, fuck everything. It was crazy.
Gotta have the flow, man. You gotta have the flow.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is interesting though. Like, because you were uncomfortable in a relationship and you blamed the person instead of the quality of the relationship, and you were like ready to possibly you said the relationship had to evolve was the words you chose to me.
Yep.
You said it very open in the sense that evolution could be turning into flames as well. It's very open in my way that I interpret it. And instead you were able to make a minor adjustment that's probably going to, in the long term, really benefit the both of you and the sequential relationship as a result. So it's like the whole is even going to be really improved by that, by a little adjustment, because you weren't necessarily bothered by him. You were bothered by the quality and the content of your interactions.
100%.
So now you've adjusted the quality and the content of those interactions to be something more intentional, where you'll have a lot more to contribute and then a lot more to receive, and you'll actually like receiving. Like you might actually want to read the book, for example.
Yeah. And I watched the movie because I saved 7 hours of time. I watched the movie he wanted me to watch. I finished the book that I was reading, and it's just like, and I already started my next book this morning because I have 7 hours of time to fill this week. So I have a book. Guess how long it is, Dustin?
7 hours.
It's 7 hours long. So I'm going to finish this. I'm going to finish this book I started this morning before our call next week. Like, I'm committed to that.
Cool.
And it's like, there's no reason not to, because I've just proved to myself that that's exactly how much extra time I have this week.
Yeah, because you chose to pay attention. Because you chose to pay attention, you bought that time. Now, now you're going to enjoy it this week. It's fabulous. It's brilliant. I'm so glad to be part of this process. It's so cool.
No, it's freaking hilarious, right? So it's just
why we're here, man.
No, and like I'm like, I can feel my body just lit, like, and it's just. And so sometimes it was like, and this started like, it felt really heavy. Like I had the conversation with him on Friday. And I think on last Monday, I talked about needing to have the conversation. So this has been going, it's like a week long. I really feel like I need to have this conversation with this person. And I was really dreading having that conversation. But by choosing to have the conversation, I found 7 extra hours of time in my week, which is just literally. And so the funny thing is too, is that I know that I have to delete those apps. And like, it's just, it's like, there's no like discussion about it. There's no, like, it's like, I'm attempting in my mind, like intentionally be like, no, this is why I should leave them. Like, they're all bullshit. It's all bullshit. Cause I could be ingesting much more quality content. And then again,
well, you're also taking away your board mechanism. Like you have a thing in here. When he gets bored, dude, crazy amazing things happen. Yeah. Or you just sit there and then poof, you invent something that changes your whole life.
Which is an even more important reason for me to listen to my books on a 1.0 speed.
Fuck yeah, you need the time, man.
Yeah, because I have so much of it.
Because you create it. Because you give a fuck and you pay attention. And so because you're paying attention on the time that you spend, you have more time to spend because you pay attention to it. It's just the law of attraction, the law of the way our brain works. When we focus on something, it grows. Fucking sick. 2019, baby.
I know.
Letting the wind guide.
That's amazing. Yeah, no, it was really, really fascinating. And I really, and I say this a lot to people I talk to about this literal exact thing. You never, ever, ever know what it's going to find. And you never, ever know the lesson that you're about to learn until you talk to somebody about something you wouldn't normally talk about, or go do something that you wouldn't normally do. Have this conversation. What's going on, Becky? I'm in my own brain hole about what having a scary conversation you could discover. Your turn. Just letting you know. Oh, man. Cool, man. What else do you want to do?
Fuck, I don't know, man. That was pretty amazing.
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty stoked about this.
I think that your goal or your not even goal, your plan to get a book done in a week is really cool. And it's like that book can be totally fucking pointless, and you broke even.
The thing is, I started Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat.
Oh, okay.
It has, and this is, we want to talk about how I pick books too. Dustin's been asking me to read Stealing Fire, and while reading the book, I found out the machinations of his master plan behind it.
Had nothing to do with it, man. I swear to God.
I know, it's all good. But it's funny the parallels we draw.
No
It's
fun.
yeah. So yeah, I don't remember. But how long have you been recommending this book to me?
We talked about it early on in
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
How Weirds or whatever. I mentioned it because I had been reading it and it had been like brain fucking me every night. I'm just like, oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't talk about anything else for like well, I mean, I was for 2 weeks. For 2 weeks that I was reading this book. I was like, I'm reading this book and there's this thing. And what do you think of it? And people are like, yeah. And so Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat was a book that Stephanie recommended me like last year, sometime middle of the year. And it's just been in my Audible count, just like Stealing Fire, like around the same time. And so somebody else in a different group that was like, hey, has anybody heard of this book? I was like, all right, there's 2 hits, 2 touches. If I hear about it twice, I read it. And because I don't have time to pick out my own books.
Totally, man.
I don't need to do it.
Why would you?
Yeah, I don't need to do it. Yeah, there's just no reason to. And that's also too, because the funniest thing is that it's just like I had this conversation on here with whoever was here, whom I don't even remember who was here, Tara and Mar, and about the conversation that I needed to have. And then it just led to this. There's some stuff in the book. And then it was just interesting how the information here would carry, it just always carries directly over if I let it. If I open that up and just allow it to roll to the next thing. And then it's like, oh man, 7 hours, like 7 hours is a lot of time. Yeah. Like that's a whole work day. It's a work day.
The whole work day.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically basically a whole Saturday of free time.
Yeah. I just gave myself a whole extra day a week, you know? And so it's just, it just kind of blew me away. So when I get off here, I gotta go have a conversation now I gotta have the scarier conversation. It's the one with my phone, which is like, even with yourself. Yeah. No, but it's like even more interesting when I think about to last Wednesday, when I have this conversation with Jason. I was like, hey man, we got to evolve this relationship or we're going to have to break up. Like, that's where I was at. I was like, we have to evolve this or we got to stop. Like, I don't know what it is yet. And now I'm thinking about deleting apps from my phone, and it actually feels worse than removing this person from my life. Maybe. And that's even more of a trippy mind job right there.
Because you depend on it more for dopamine, man. That's like taking it.
Yeah, for sure.
Away. So I'll just to pull something out of something else we've already talked about before. instead of deleting the apps, why not change the filter, man? Why not just go gray? Pick a number of days and just adopt the gray filter and do it for.
I'm just gonna go turn it on. I'll be right back. Phone's gray. I'll leave it gray till next week. I'll just leave it gray. I'll turn it back on when I turn it back on, but I'm gonna leave it gray for at least a week.
Yeah, at least until well, I won't be there next week, but
and I'm committed to I'm committed to not looking at my phone for 30 minutes minimum when I wake up. Like, that's something I know has to happen. I just have to do that because that'll be another half hour. Like, that's another, and those are the most important parts of my day because
charge your phone in your kitchen and keep it as far away from your bedroom as possible.
Yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to plug it in somewhere completely out of the spot.
If it's in your kitchen, then you're like, I'm not going to walk into my kitchen. That's too far out of normal programming. It's not that phone isn't literally cracked. You're not going to go search for it in your kitchen. You're going to lay in bed and be like, oh. There's enough time for you to realize it's in the kitchen for a reason because you're committed to this thing, and then you get to actually make a choice, which is ultimately
which is even more powerful. Yeah,
absolutely. Which is ultimately what we're always seeking is the ability to be aware, to choose, which hurts more sometimes when you get the phone anyway. But
no, it's good. It's what I really want. It's that I have this. We were talking about last week. We're like constantly searching for validation. Yeah, Mike. That's like, I read this book, Mike, called 5 Second Rule a couple years ago. And she was like, the most important thing that you can do at the beginning of your day was take 30 minutes for yourself. Because the moment, and this, it's funny thing is that I know this stuff, like I know it deeply. The moment you look into the phone, somebody else's intentions and priority become yours. So somebody else's intentions for the day are the things that they want to accomplish, like your brain adopts. And like that first 30 minutes when you wake up and you've been in your subconscious for the last 8 hours, if you're lucky. And then I guess not, it's not lucky. If you're intentional about your sleep, let's just put it that way. If you're intentional about your sleep, you wake up 8 hours later. And then if the first thing you do is put that phone up to your face, all that stuff that your body was about to like give you, all the stuff that your brain and your heart and your gut that's been processing all night long, they're about to present you this thing and you just you wreck it and the anxiety just turns on for me. That's what it does for me. Like I just be like, I'm like attempting to take care of my daughter. I'm attempting to rush her out of thing. And again, it's all like, I don't have enough time. Bullshit. You know, so that 30 extra minutes right there. So we're now we're at like 10 hours a week instead of 7. And so,
Damn.
mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Fuck. That's crazy.
Yeah. So that's what I'm going to do. Instead of deleting the apps, I'm going to do the 30 minutes in the morning and leave it gray. Because the gray, it's like, it's my brain is like, oh, this is stupid. It's like talking to my phone, like
going and
Gollum.
being an alcoholic and picking up a bottle of alcohol and it to being water. Like,
yeah,
that's literally
exactly
what your brain does. It's expecting one thing. It's expecting this beautiful glow of all these brilliant colors that's brighter than anything you could ever see ever. It's looking for that thing, that external validation, that all of it. So it's multiple levels. Not only is it the appearance itself, it's the intention and the meaning behind it that we create. So it's twofold. It's attacking your consciousness on 2 different fronts. It's a fucking dangerous thing, man. So the gray brings it into focus more than anything else, because you do 2 weeks gray, 3 weeks gray, your brain sort of starts to forget. And then you turn your phone back on color and it's like you're on ecstasy, man. You're like, oh my God, what is this thing? Like, you feel like your daughter felt when she saw that screen the first time and you saw her just go like,
yeah. And so that's another thing too. And that's the biggest reason. Like Pippin's 4.5 months old. She'll be 5 months next week. And Mike, I'll explain the 5-second rule in just a second. What was I talking about right before that? Yeah, my 5-month-old daughter, like you'll pick it up, you'll grab it, Auntie Patrice is calling, you grab it, and she's like, you know, because they're looking at that and they're like, the most important things in the world must be going on because you're on that thing 5 hours a day.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't even, that's because I don't have a front row for that. Wow, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, the most important thing. So, Mike, the 5-second rule, the basic idea of the 5-second rule is this. Dustin, check me, because you checked me on this once. The prediction center of your brain, what's a part of your brain that's just constantly making predictions? This
prefrontal cortex.
Prefrontal cortex. This part of your brain is constantly generating predictions. It's predicting what's going to happen if you have a conversation with your wife. It's predicting what's going to happen if you like drive a certain direction to work. It's constantly making predictions, which is the primary way that your brain keeps you safe. And so it's always going all the time. Like you can feel it if you let yourself. So what the 5-second rule does is, like, say you're getting ready to do something you don't want to do, like get out of bed 30 minutes earlier and go to the gym or something like that. Your brain's like intentionally pushing against that because it's not interested in you changing, because what you're doing right now is safe and there's food on the table and you can fornicate and make babies if you want and continue to propagate the species. So when you stand in a spot or you're laying in your bed and you're like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, like I could feel it in my brain doing it. We're also trained to know that something new and exciting is supposed to happen at the end of a countdown. So it pauses this for a second because this part of your brain's like, oh, I need this information to add to my prediction center. And it kicks on these other parts of your brain that generate new ideas. And so when you do that countdown and then you just get out of bed and then head to the gym, your brain's like, and then you allow yourself to experience the actual physical feelings in your body that it's like that, the force that's pressing against you changing your life. Like that's the worst that it'll ever feel. at 6 a.m. or 5 a.m. or however early you need to get up to get ahead of your day. And again, the alarm clock is just an example. Like that, it gives you that opportunity to experience that negative feeling or emotion, and then 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and boom, get past it. And it dips that right into your new prediction center. And then it's like over time, it just becomes, then when you go to do that before, your brain stops fighting you because it just feels cool. It feels safe. And so that's like the basic premise beside it. The 5-second rule is like a 5.5 hour long book where Mel Robbins, the author, just reads 5.5 hours of testimonials of people that have used the 5-second rule to change your life. It's actually a really genius idea to writing a book. Or she has a TED talk called How to Stop Screwing Yourself Over. That's actually really good too. I will put this up real quick. And it's like an 18-minute TED talk that tells exactly, here it is. I'll just put it in the comments. Yeah, and it's really good. So if you ever want to do something new, like just check that thing out. So yeah, cool, buddy. Hard stop, 6:30.
All right, man. Super
Dude,
cool.
I freaking appreciate this more than you know. This has been really radical. Also, just for people watching too, Dustin and I have also evolved our relationship, and we're going to go without guests until we decide to bring guests back on. So we had this similar conversation about our relationship, and this is what we would like to do. We feel that the guests were really cool for a moment, yet at the same time, in certain aspects of this, it was like almost getting in the way of what we want to accomplish with our relationship with him and I. So yeah, is what it is. Dustin won't be here. I'll find somebody to bring back on next week, so we'll still be here. And then yeah, other than that, man, bro,
all right, man.
Good luck. Don't die. If you do,
quite the opposite.
Yeah, no, exactly. Even if you do, like, having a freaking amazing journey, dude.
If I do, I'll be frozen and naked, so things will be great.
It'll be perfect. It'll be perfect. Yeah, the hardest you've ever been.
Hardest I've ever been.
All right, bro.
Later, man.
I love you so much. I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.